Jason Whitley returned home one evening, hoping to unwind after yet another exhausting day filled with endless deadlines, annoying client calls, and the hovering presence of a micromanaging boss. The only thing keeping him sane was the thought of sinking into the refreshing waters of his newly built pool, beer in hand, letting the stress of the world dissolve away. But that image shattered the moment he stepped into his backyard. His pool, his glistening escape, was bone dry. Not a drop of water remained. The brilliant blue tiles that once sparkled beneath the water now stared back mockingly under the setting sun. He blinked. Once. Twice. Was he hallucinating? He rubbed his eyes in disbelief, hoping it was just fatigue playing tricks. But no. The water was gone. All of it. Confusion twisted into shock, and then anger roared to life in his chest. He stormed closer to the edge of the pool, scanning for clues. That's when he noticed someone standing near the fence. Agnes Miller. There she was, arms folded like she was posing for a statue, a smug grin spread across her face. She looked like a monarch surveying her kingdom, completely unfazed. Jason's jaw clenched. Of course. Of course it was her. He stomped toward the fence, fury tightening every step. Agnes, did you drain my pool? She didn't flinch. Didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she tilted her head with a self-righteous smile and said, Yes. I did. It's a waste of water. Someone had to take responsibility. Her tone was syrupy with superiority, as if she was delivering a sermon rather than confessing to vandalism. Jason stared at her, stunned. She had trespassed on his property. Tampered with his personal belongings. Wasted thousands of gallons of water. And she didn't even try to hide it. This wasn't about the environment. This was about power. Agnes had crowned herself the moral authority of the neighborhood, and she believed that gave her the right to violate boundaries, literal and personal. Jason didn't scream. He didn't shout. But inside, a storm was gathering. She had pushed the line too far this time. That night, he paced like a restless animal inside his home, fists clenched, thoughts racing. Sleep was out of the question. Every time he closed his eyes, her smug face came back like a haunting. He thought of every past interaction with her. The note she once taped to his door, scolding him about his unkempt hedges. The time she reported his dog Max for barking, though Max only barked at trespassers. The police she called during a harmless backyard barbecue. Agnes had been a thorn in his side for years. But this crossed into invasion. By sunrise, Jason's rage had crystallized into something sharper, resolve. He would not let her get away with it. That morning, he made his way through the neighborhood, calmly talking to neighbors, gathering their stories. It didn't take long. Everyone seemed to know about what happened. She actually bragged about it, said Lisa, a single mother whose kids often played in Jason's yard. She said she was saving the community from itself. Like she's some eco-savior. Mark, the retired Marine 2 houses down, shook his head. She's been pulling stunts like this for years. Everyone's just too tired or too scared to say anything. Jason felt a cold determination rise in his chest. Agnes had been ruling through intimidation. Most people avoided confrontation. But he wouldn't. Not anymore. This wasn't just about a drained pool. It was about years of unchecked arrogance. It was about standing up to the self-declared queen of the block. He contacted a local attorney known for handling property disputes and swiftly filed a lawsuit for trespassing and destruction of property. Agnes had finally gone too far, and this time, there would be consequences. The case moved faster than anyone anticipated. Before long, Jason found himself seated in a courtroom across from his relentless neighbor, now his legal opponent. Agnes Miller strutted into the courtroom as though it were her personal stage, dressed in what looked more suited for a charity gala than a hearing. Her posture was stiff with pride, her expression unreadable but cold. She carried herself like a crusader convinced of her righteousness, and that smug superiority made Jason's stomach twist. He clenched his jaw and steadied his breath. This wasn't the time to react. He needed calm. Composure. Focus. The hearing began, and when Agnes was given the chance to speak, she didn't apologize. She didn't backtrack. No, she doubled down. Rising from her seat with theatrical poise, she spoke as if she were addressing a jury of admirers. I did what had to be done, she declared with conviction. Water is precious. Pools are an indulgent misuse of it. I couldn't stand by and do nothing. Her words dripped with condescension. The courtroom fell silent for a moment. Jason sat frozen, disbelief etched into every line of his face. Did she really just frame her crime as a noble act? His attorney remained unfazed. Your Honor, the lawyer began smoothly. This isn't about ideology. This is about the law, trespassing, theft, and property damage. One by one, the pieces of evidence were laid out, crystal clear security footage showing Agnes slipping through Jason's fence, photographs of the drained pool, and witness accounts from neighbors who'd heard her brag about it. The judge listened carefully, his expression gradually shifting from neutral to stern. As the evidence piled up, Agnes's carefully composed mask began to crack. Her proud stance weakened. Her hands fidgeted. Her gaze dropped to the floor more often. Then came the judge's words, measured yet firm. Ms. Miller, regardless of your personal views, the law does not bend for self-righteousness. What you did was unlawful, and it caused significant damage. Moral belief does not place anyone above accountability. For the first time, something shifted in Agnes's eyes, uncertainty. Fear. Reality. She had convinced herself that her mission gave her immunity. But the law didn't agree. The verdict came swiftly and decisively. Agnes Miller was found guilty of trespassing and willful property destruction. The court ordered her to repay Jason every cent for the stolen water, along with his legal fees and additional compensation. But perhaps the most satisfying moment came when the judge issued a permanent restraining order. Agnes was banned from ever setting foot near Jason's home again. Jason left the courthouse with quiet dignity. He didn't need to gloat. He had stood his ground, and the law had done the rest. Agnes, on the other hand, stormed out in silence, clutching her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her eyes avoided contact with everyone. The woman who once paraded around the neighborhood like she ran it now walked out defeated, her pride in ruins. The next morning, Jason stood on his front porch, sipping his coffee and watching a scene he never thought he'd witness. Across the street, a moving truck idled in front of Agnes's home. Cardboard boxes were stacked on the driveway. A couple of movers loaded them one by one. She was leaving. Word had already spread. Agnes was selling her house. Whether it was humiliation, shame, or both, she could no longer face the people she once scolded and controlled. Jason stood silently, arms crossed, watching her disappear from his life. He didn't wave. He didn't smirk. The moment didn't need embellishment. She was retreating. And everyone knew why. Soon, neighbors began to gather near Jason's yard. You're a hero, man, Mark said, clapping him on the back. No one ever had the guts to take her on. But you did. Lisa joined in, her voice full of gratitude. Thank you. I always worried she'd come after my kids next. You stood up not just for yourself, but for all of us. One by one, neighbors approached him with handshakes and smiles. There was a new atmosphere in the neighborhood, lighter, freer. The tension that had hung over their community for years had lifted. Jason didn't seek praise, but their appreciation warmed him. He hadn't done it for applause. He'd done it because someone had to. That evening, he sat by his freshly refilled pool. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm amber glow across the rippling water. A breeze rustled the trees above as he leaned back in his chair, finally at peace. The nightmare was over. The tyrant was gone. And justice? It was floating quietly in every cool, calming ripple of the pool he had fought to reclaim.